One program we've been covering a ton here because it seems like every day they're bringing in, I'm not going to say the biggest name, but an intriguing prospect. And who else would we be talking about than Bill Belichick and North Carolina? And they have a big one on campus. Visit started yesterday into today, Friday, and potentially into the weekend. But offensive lineman Daniel King from Troy, highly coveted. This is someone who, as you see in the graphic, was entered into the NFL draft, or announced he was entering, didn't fully put his paperwork in, and decided that he's going to come back to school. Has no other visits set, so this is looking like he's a Tar Heel unless something unforeseen happens.
Yeah, and this is something that fits in. We didn't, before we did a show on UNC and their offensive line yesterday before this visit was announced, and it fits in exactly with what we had been talking about, which is they are trying to add size. That is the name of the game at UNC. They said, you heard Mike Lombardi say it in one of these interviews he did with McAfee, that he was trying to build an offensive line with size, kind of that old Bill Parcells thing, which, of course, the Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick ties. William Boone from Prairie View A&M, 6'6", 340 pounds. He's committed. Chad Lindbergh from Rice, originally from Georgia, big-time recruit, 6'6", 315. Miles McVay, 6'6", 342, Alabama, was a backup there, played a little bit, but now he moves into a bigger role. Again, that size, plus size. And then they had Christo Kelly, the center from Holy Cross, 6'4", 305, but he'll be the center there. He does have some length for a center. So now you add into the mix, just a complete giant in Daniel King, 6'5", 340. He was 6'5", 270 in high school from Cairo, Georgia, right in South Georgia, right on the border. So he was not a very highly touted recruit, but he has added 70 pounds. And watching his film, you can see the size. This guy's just massive, very, very hard to move as a pass blocker, particularly at that level. You look at some of the production he's had, multi-time All Sun Belt selection, 2,642 snaps at the FBS level. Originally had announced he was going to enter the draft, chose not to enter the draft. He was on the Senior Bowl watch list, so he was someone that the NFL had eyes on. Really mainly a right guard, offensive guard, but has started games at offensive tackle. Allowed only 9 sacks in 1,396 career pass blocking snaps. 4th rated run blocker in the Sun Belt. You look at his grades according to Pro Football Focus, 75.8 overall, which is very good. 79.6 pass block grade, which is outstanding. 76.5 run block grade. So this is a mauler, someone, again, from a lower level competition. Troy didn't have the best season this year, but somebody who has the traits of an ACC player plus, right, at 40 pounds, 6'5". So I think you're seeing an emphasis on size from Bill Belichick and Mike Lombardi up front, really more so than you even saw at New England, because New England was never the biggest line in the world, the Patriots. But I think he's saying, hey, look, I'm looking at Georgia. I'm looking at, some of the better offenses in recent days, right? Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley had a giant offensive line, the number 1 offense in the country this year. Miami Hurricanes had a very, very big offensive line. Alabama and Georgia, always tremendous size. So maybe their analysis of the college football landscape is even more so than the NFL, where they were pretty average in size. The Patriots, we're going to be bigger than everybody else, and we can do that because the college game is not as standardized as the pros, where everybody's drafting from the same pool of players.
Yeah, and you're right with these body types, man. If they can get a lot of them having just some background as an agent, I represent offensive lineman Titus Howard from Alabama State, was a first-round pick in 2019 to the Houston Texans. He's still with the Texans, starting lineman for them. Coming out of Alabama State, a program with not that many resources, the jump physically that he took when he started his pre-draft training process in basically 6 weeks to 8 weeks, 2 months, the physical transformation that took place because of a proper nutrition plan, the proper weight program and training, and just the resources at the program. So a lot of these guys that we're talking about for North Carolina, making the jump up from programs that, not to the program's fault, not that they're doing anything wrong, but just these are big time Division I programs, Power 4 conference teams. North Carolina, we understand the resources that they have in place right now behind Bill Belichick. It's going to be a whole different atmosphere for them, and their growth is going to be exponential. It's going to take off for them compared to what would have probably happened to them if they just stayed at their schools that they're at. Again, not to say that they were getting bad coaching or anything there. Those places have gotten them to the point where North Carolina wanted them, right? So if anyone from those schools are watching, I don't want them to, but I'm talking about the weight program and the food aspect of things, because bottom line, it's going to be better at North Carolina than where they were.
And the competition of practice, right? You're going against ACC defensive linemen every day in practice and then in the games, of course. So this is someone who had a chance to be a pro. So Belichick clearly, let's say, assuming they can get it done, he's clearly saying, I'm going to get you over the hump where not only you're on the pro watch list, so to speak, but you are firmly a pro prospect. You're getting invited to Senior Bowls. You know, you are someone who's been blessed by me, by this staff, had the NFL sort of, stamp of approval, and then become a legitimate pro prospect with your size and with your trajectory. So we'll see if it gets done. It makes a lot of sense. You heard Mike Lombardi, who was the GM of North Carolina, say repeatedly, we are going to rebuild this offensive line first. And this would be, of all the names we've talked about so far, I think this would be the biggest piece from a production standpoint, right? You've had guys, McVay from Alabama, blue chipper, Lindbergh, former blue chipper. These are guys that have pedigrees. But as far as production in college at the FBS level, I think Daniel King would be the most productive member of this class for UNC, and has a lot of upside physically due to his size.
And D, I said that was our last topic, but I actually wanted to touch on one more thing here regarding North Carolina. And we talked about the hiring of a special teams coach yesterday from the NFL level, an offensive line coach with a lot of experience in the college level as well. So they've made a hire, or it looks like they're expected to make a hire at wide receiver, bringing in Louisville wide receiver coach Garrick McGee.
Yeah, and this is kind of what you saw yesterday, right? So first of all, the staff's filling in. When the staff hires were delayed a little bit, people thought Belichick might have been keeping his toe in the water, kind of hanging around, waiting for the NFL to come calling. And that's why he wasn't hiring staff quickly, because he didn't want to bring guys over and then fire them or leave. But clearly that's not the case. He is hiring staff, and this was a big one here with Garrick McGee, 51 years old, formerly the head coach at UAB, worked with Jeff Brom at Louisville for the past 2 years, also worked with him at Purdue. He is a college lifer, which is something that's, interesting. He was a college quarterback at Arizona State, Oklahoma, from Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma to be exact. But some of these guys are pro guys that Belichick's bringing in, and some of them are just pure college guys. Some have a little bit of both. This is a pure college guy. You look at his background. I mentioned Louisville and Purdue with Jeff Brom. He was at Florida, Missouri, Illinois, Louisville again, Arkansas, Northwestern, UNLV, Toledo. So he has been all around, and of course, head coach at UAB from 12 to 13. Watching him at Louisville last year, Ja'Cory Brooks, Chris Bell combined 104 catches, 1750 yards, 13 touchdowns. But what jumped out to me in particular was Ja'Cory Brooks, who I saw in high school here at Booker T. Washington in Miami, Florida. He was everybody's All-America, 5-star player, also went to IMG. He was Alabama. He was expected to be the next in line of a Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, as far as those South Florida receivers to go to Alabama and go to the first round. That didn't happen at Alabama. His stock dropped precipitously. Goes to Louisville, really rehabs his career, with McGee, ends up being one of the top receivers in the ACC, and is going to be, I believe, a pretty good NFL draft pick based on his production and his development as a senior. So McGee's shown he can develop guys. Also at Jamari Thrash, who was drafted in the fifth round. Charlie Jones drafted in the 4th round by the Bengals. So he's produced NFL players recently. If you're looking at UNC's receiving core, you lost a lot of talent. You do bring back Kobe Pace, or redshirt senior. He entered the portal and withdrew. Isaiah Johnson from Michigan State, Jason Robinson from Washington coming in. So there's a room with a lot of turnover, and now they got a new voice in there to mold them the right way.